We have with us today Donn Bradley, who's a former law enforcement officer of 10 years in the Bay Area and is now marriage and family therapist specializing in complex trauma and PTSI. Dom, I'm glad you're with us today. I'm going to turn it over to you, and once Dom finishes his session, we'll have an opportunity to ask questions and uh, and go from there. So, Dom,
Awesome.
welcome.
Thanks for having me, Rich. I appreciate it, man. I really do. And it's just for the sake of the record, it's Don. It looks like Dom without my glasses. It's Don with two N's, which you
Yeah.
can blame my mom for that one. So the reason I wanted to actually talk was because I've found that throughout the hundreds, if not thousands of sessions by now that I've done with people, the theme has sort of arisen based on the type of clientele that I'm seeing, because I specialize with first responders and military personnel and their families. And so what I've noticed is that, well, aside from the fact that I'm a pretty no nonsense type of person, right? Police officer of 10 years. I during that 10 years I specialized in all things anti-terrorism, right? Especially after 9/11. And one of the things that they taught me was one of the things they taught me that I use specifically every day is advanced interview and interrogation. And that's basically just reading people's facial expressions and body language. So I tell my clients, you can lie all you want, you're just not doing it to me, right? And so I know that first responders are very A to B. They don't like this category to begin with, right? Because I was raised in the Midwest. Men don't cry, emotions are weakness, right? I'm sure everybody can relate in that way. But then you become a first responder and you end up becoming the best at compartmentalizing things. It's like you go to these terrible things, you see it, you push it to the side, you go to the next one, right? And so what I've noticed in my travels in this profession is that, well, first of all, I'm a caveman, right? I come from caveman stock, right? And so I appeal to the cave person who's had that, men don't cry, emotions are weakness type of mentality drilled down into them so deeply, right? And so the reason I come from that is not because the people I'm talking with are stupid, but at the time that they need to have this lesson, it's got to be Sesame Street simple, has to be catchy, it's got to be even a little funny and stuff like that, just to be able to sort of rescue them from the place that they get to sort of inside their head, right? And so I typically start out by saying, I did this for 10 years, got into, at the end of the 10 years, was not dealing with injuries well, was not coping well, didn't have good coping mechanisms, drinking, pills, stuff like that, and really uh, got twisted up pretty bad. And then when I got spit out on the other side, I sort of needed to realize that I needed to get my help, did the stuff that I needed to get, and then looked back on my experience and the experiences that I have with the people that I'm seeing on the regular now, and have gleaned this message that I wanted to sort of be able to give to everybody, because it seems like I'm saying this stuff over and over and over and over again because it applies and it's super simple, right? And that's the thing is what I'm going to tell you, you're going to hear and you're going to roll your eyes at how simple it is, but I'm actually walking you into a trap, and there's not a darn thing you're going to be able to do about it. That's the part where I want the person who's sitting here to listen to this. I want them to be the most anti-therapy. It's a bunch of BS. I want you to listen to that with those ears, because when the more you do that, the more you fall into this trap, right? I want you to really dig in your heels onto why this stuff is bad or whatever, right? Or why emotions are bad. And I don't think emotions are bad, right? I use a lot of analogy and metaphor to be able to actually relate this. And the reason you fall into my trap is because when I tell a story and you get a picture inside of your head, then I can scribble a little something down next to that picture. Then every time you think of that picture, you're going to think of that thing that I scribbled down next to it, right? It's already past all those defenses and inside your own brain, right? And so it's like, throwing that little piece in there for you to have that epiphany for you to have later on down the road, right? And so it starts with a sort of caveman physiology lesson. None of this stuff's scientific. I'm not inventing anything new. I just happen to be putting this together in a way that seems to resonate with folks. And then, and I'll have these conversations and I'll be talking with some of the most cantankerous anti-emotion people you can possibly imagine. And when you see them, that shell cracked open, you start to think, well, maybe this would help actually somebody else. And that's kind of why I'm here. But I'm also here because I have been in the depths. In fact, things got really bad with my own stuff to the point where I was considering taking my own life. And the only reason that I didn't was because I was raised Southern Baptist, and they basically told me that if I did that, I would go to hell, right? And so that internal struggle of, but feeling like I'm in hell while I'm dealing with all this stuff and not knowing what to do with it, not understanding it, not being able to control it, like even in the slightest, right? And so when I finally did begrudgingly get chunked out on the other side, what I learned was this simple tutorial that I'm about to tell you, right? And so I'm gonna continue using analogy and metaphor to try to help people understand that, right? So for the sake of this exercise, I'd like everybody to take your hand and put it up like this. Take this thumb, tuck it under here, wrap the other four fingers. This is your brain right here. You know how they say that people's brains are developed till you're 25, right? And that's when it really kind of sort of sets in concrete and all that stuff. This is that piece of concrete. Okay, you can put that down now. It's we're unified in power. We got this. All right. So this is your brain right here, and if this is your brain, so now you got to realize I'm telling this to the person that doesn't want to be there, that absolutely does not want to be there, right? So I got to give this. I can't give them statistics. I can give them all the laundry list of the chemicals that they're releasing when they get upset. But frankly, they don't give a shit about that. They want to be able to understand it and get a hook in it and have that thing on their belt, right? So this is your brain. If that's true, then this is that first little peanut that you got whenever you were first born. Your survival mechanism: fight, flight, faint, or freeze, right? I have to qualify that this is not scientific because I'm embarrassed that I'm doing it in this way, but I know what I'm doing because I know the person I'm talking to is sitting there going, "Oh, science lesson, turn it off," right? And it's like, okay, well, once you realize that you have one of these, that everybody has one of these, because all four of us have one of these, right? This thing is like a container, right? And whether you have good parents, bad parents, no parents, love and support, abuse and neglect, it shapes how big this container is and how often you're allowed to pour it out, right? If you're told your whole entire life that you're not allowed to pour it out, then it's only going in, or if rub some dirt on it, or whatever, like I said, the men don't cry, that attitude, right? Then it only goes in, it doesn't actually come out, right? Then you get older and you develop your higher functions, logic, reasoning, stuff like that. Look what's tucked way deep into the core of that thing, right? And there's a reason for that. The reason, have you ever gotten really mad, done something stupid, and then come back and went, "Oh man, I can't believe that I did that," right? Like every other human being. That's this portion of your brain casting judgment on this portion of your brain for doing the only thing it knows how to do, and that's react, right? It doesn't ruminate, it doesn't contemplate, it doesn't investigate, it just reacts, right? Do you have a crystal ball? Do you have a crystal ball? Can you see into the future, right? The answer to that question is no. Do you have a time machine? You do not. That means you can't go back into the past and change anything that's happened to you or any mistake you've made or anything like that other than the way you think about it, right? Can you read minds? You cannot, right? Guess what? This one thinks it can do all three of those things, right? This is the one, right? When, like, if you imagine that our experience is like a very specific set of prescription glasses, right? You can say, "I see things perfectly. Look," and I'll take your glasses off and hand them to somebody else, and they're like, "That is not my prescription. I don't see the world the way that you do," right? That's because of the experiences you've had. But if you have flames painted on your glasses, you can't be surprised when it looks like everything's on fire, right? And a lot of people don't even realize that they're wearing these flame colored glasses, right? Trying to put out the rest of the world rather than just going, Oh, right, right. And so the reason that first responders and military folks train over and over and over and over again is because when the shit goes down, this turns off, this turns on, all of this goes away. All the stuff that we're jamming up in here, that's all this good information, goes right out the door, right? And so we're here in that frantic chicken little sky's falling. The only reason that the sky's not falling for first responders and military is because they train over and over and over and over again. Now is not the time for this person to negotiate their future or to set anything in concrete about the value of their future or the value of their past or their relationship, stuff like that, right? Here's your first responder. Here's their significant other. This right here is communication. This is not. And this is just two rams on a hillside, right? And so just being able for any person who has one of these to recognize when this is on, that's your highest priority. Now, when you recognize this is on, the only job is to turn it off. It's to get to a safe place and bring the mainframe back online, right? Because how many times have people been in these conversations where they're like, you're not getting what I'm saying. It's like, because I'm here. And the other thing, too, is communication is like playing catch with a baseball. There's the way it's thrown and the way it's caught. If somebody's sitting there go, you're not getting it, that's you basically throwing fast pitch ball at them and wondering why they're getting mad at you for hitting them like that. It's like because they didn't have their glove up whenever you're having this communication, right? And communication only takes place here, right? Have you ever seen those nature videos where the zebra's at the watering hole and the croc comes up to get him? In any of those videos, have you ever seen the zebra go, hey, let's talk about this as he's running away? No, because now's not the time, right? And like I said, your highest priority when this is on is to recognize it's on and turn it off. It's not to negotiate with your significant other or judge your past or think about how terrible the things are that are going to happen in the future, right? With people off on injuries, that's what they have. They have this and a crystal ball and a time machine, and they're going back and just saying all the terrible things that they did that were wrong and the way they should have done this, right? And if you think about all these first responders having these laundry list of things that they've been to, right? Each one of those things has a value assigned to it that they don't even realize is assigned to it until you go back and look, right? Most of us don't want to go back and look at that stuff because it was painful enough the first time, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So the reason I tell you about this is because if you think about somebody being caught up in a mindset, I'll tell you why this becomes an issue, right? So has anybody been to the fair, like the county fair? Right? Funnel cakes, corn dogs, rides, games, stuff like that. The smell of manure in the air from all the livestock shows, right? In fact, if I asked you to close your eyes and take a big deep breath, you'd probably be able to go, "Oh yeah, I can smell the hay as we speak, right? And hear the kids screaming on the rides and all that stuff, right?" Have you ever seen that game, that water gun game down the midway where the horses race each other? Yeah, the Kentucky Derby one. Right. So imagine that everybody that has one of these, right? Everybody that has one of these has four horses, and that's the team that's responsible for pulling your life, right? That's everybody has it, no matter what. There's your physical horse. That is the container that you came in. Tall, short, wide, thin, sick all the time, gym bro. It's your physical identity and how important it is to you. It's a spectrum onto which everybody falls. It's like an equalizer on a soundboard, right? It kind of goes up. You get stronger, you grow up, you become an athlete, and all that. Intellectually, book smart versus street smart. So physical horse, intellectual horse. Somewhere in between, a little bit of both. You grow up and become smarter, wiser, stuff like that. Socially, the social horse, right? Loner, cool kid in the group, somewhere in between, a little bit of both. Emotional horse, right? We'll get back to this one. Now, like I said, I was raised in the Midwest, and if anybody can relate to this, you'll know. Men don't cry, emotions are weakness, shame and guilt were wrapped around anything coming out of this gate right here. Anything coming out of this gate, you're going to feel bad. It's almost like there's something wrong with you, like you're weak, right? So here's the gun. Bang, the gun goes off. These four horses are trying to figure out who you're going to be. Are you going to be the athlete? Are you going to be the brainiac? Are Are you going to be the social butterfly? There isn't really a good positive value for this. Women are allowed to be more emotional, right? Because society says that they're sort of like in place to have better access to it and all this kind of stuff, right? And but there's not really like if you're good, you don't mind being good at athletics, you don't mind being good at academics, you don't mind being good, being the social butterfly. What's this version, all right? What's the top of the heap for this? There really isn't one. It's like nobody wants to be the emotional one, right? Because it's always a negative connotation that goes along with that, right? So those four try to figure out who you're going to be. You're going to be the athlete, the brainiac, social butterfly. Well, my horse here, the emotional horse, it was told, men don't cry, emotions are weakness. So we're going to take this horse and we're going to lock it behind this gate and we're going to weld it shut. And when things get difficult, here's the coping mechanisms we're going to use to handle our business. Physically, what do? We fight, we work out, we work overtime, right? All the while this horse is bucking like crazy. Intellectually, what do? First responders are really good at this one, right? Because they go into the most heavy, tragic situations. I mean, absolutely the worst things in some people's lives. And for them, it's a Tuesday, right? They're picking up the worst weights known to mankind and then putting it in the container, but not letting it come out, right? It's like compartmentalize it, push it off to the side, right? Socially, what do? I think everybody can guess this one, right? Choir practice, right? You got somebody with, that says they're fine, they got the hard candy shell, and they just went to see a dead child, right? That thing's burning a hole in their gut. And so they're going to go to their choir practice. They're going to loosen it up a little bit, maybe even find somebody that they respect, have a conversation with them who also has a hard candy shell and says everything's fine and all that kind of stuff. And you say, that was a pretty tough call. That last one was a pretty tough call. And he goes, that's nothing compared to what happened to me 3 years before that. He just told you that something is wrong with you, right? He just said that thing, well, that's nothing. That thing that I just saw was nothing, right? You get a cut on your arm, you feel pain. Pain tells your brain that something is wrong with your arm. Your arm didn't do anything wrong. It's just letting you know that there's a circumstance. Hey, circumstance here needs to be addressed, right? But when you start jamming stuff into that container and nothing comes out and you're putting in the worst that the world has to offer, and then it starts coming out, spilling out on, in anger and sadness and stuff like that on other people, on yourself, and on the impulsivity right? That's just the back part of your brain telling the front part of your brain that something is wrong. Not something is wrong with you, right? And so what we realize is that socially, these three things, the physical, the intellectual, the social, they become thoroughbreds. They are jacked. They handle your identity. They get rooted in, right? This one's still locked behind the gate. But they're also bullies, right? Because anytime this thing something starts to come out, it's like, get back in the gate, wimp, right? Oh, you shouldn't feel this way, right? You should be okay. That shouldn't have bothered you as much as it did, right? Pretty soon you start to realize this thing is bucking like crazy. What you don't realize is that ever since the day you were born, all of the crap that you've ever been through in your life starts stacking up like a Mount Everest pile of shit in front of this horse right here. Just keeps stacking up, stacking up, stacking up, stacking up until one day, right? Because you think that container is going to be there forever, and that that's bottomless. It's always going to be there. And when it's there, you see somebody else going through something, you don't understand it because you still have capacity in your container, right? Until one day you're like, oh, this snuck up on me. It didn't sneak up on me, right? It's been filling up the whole time. And then one day something happens, right? These three are like, they're doing what they can to try to cover up for it, because the intellectual horse, this is a good one too. The intellectual horse will be like, as long as I can understand it, then I don't have to deal with the emotional part, right? They'll tell themselves that. In fact, what's funny, and this is not to suggest anything about the peer group, but I can say about my own self, is that the people that need help will go and still help out other folks, right? Because it's that last little bit of them sort of intellectually trying to deal with it and not actually emotionally dealing with what's going on, right? But soon this pile is teetering. It's like, the how the Grinch stole Christmas pile of presents, just like wait, and then all of a sudden something comes down, kicks this last gate open, right? And it ain't a thoroughbred that comes out of that thing. It's a doe-eyed baby walking on stilts, right? And the reason that I'm doing this is because I am frankly tired of first responders and military folks taking their lives. It's not right. And I thought if they understood it, what I imagined is that big doe-eyed baby coming out and looking at that big pile of stuff and going, I can't do this. I'd be better off dead. And it's not true, right? Because if they understood in the darkness that they're looking through those flame-colored glasses, that it's it doesn't need to come to that, right? And so the reason I even put this whole thing together was because I got tired of seeing these posts just over and over and over again, right? But what I imagine is that doe-eyed baby coming out of there and just going, nope. Not only is it too much for me to handle, I can't. I'm too afraid to ask somebody. I'm too afraid to ask for help. I'm too afraid to, right? And what I tell people is that there are three things that have to happen in order for change to actually occur. And like I said, to this intellectual horse, sounds obvious, super obvious, right? But I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to them, the ones that don't even want to turn your ears towards the noise, right? And like I said, you're going to roll your eyes at how obvious it is. Number one, you got to acknowledge that something's going on that's not working for you. You got to realize that something is wrong and that you need to do something, right? If you've been depressed for 20 years, it's not who you are. You've been depressed for 20 years, right? It's time to get your head out of your hindquarters now. Number two, you have to accept the true level to which that thing is negatively affecting your life. I only drink a little bit. Yeah. Everybody else thinks you're an alcoholic. Until it changes in you, it ain't going to change, right? And the third and most important part, and that's this mission thing that I have. I have this thing. I made these bracelets for people so that they remember. It's called 4 is greater than 2, the new mission. Sorry for the blurriness, but it's the new mission, right? And that's the tactical language I'm using to try to I would say trick people. I joke with that because this is a crowd that prides themselves on not being tricked into anything, and I'm like, well, I'm going to do it anyway, right? And so the third most important thing is I'm asking you to join this mission, right? Because if I ask first responders and military folks, hey, I need you to join a mission because it's going to save people's lives, they'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Or let's join the mission. And it's like, perfect. That's exactly what I want to hear, right? Because the third part of this is you have to give this little doe-eyed baby, you have to give him permission to come out. Nobody's going to drag him out. Nobody's going to make you do it. Anybody that makes you do it, you're going to resent, and it's going to defeat the whole purpose. This doe-eyed baby walking on stilts has to walk out on its own, right? It has to say, I need help. I need help because have you ever seen anybody jump to the top of Mount Everest? No. Small steps and a guide. And in order for this doe-eyed baby with these atrophied leg muscles to actually get up to the top of Mount Everest is to say, I am allowing myself to do this and take small steps because you got to give yourself permission to fall down, to be nervous about it, to step into a realm that you're not familiar with and to do it anyway. Because the place that you're looking for is on the other side of that Mount Everest pile of shit, right? But it's not going to do it. You can't say, well, I'm doing this for my. You can say I'm doing it for my family. If it gets you started, great, no problem. Love it, love that motivation. But at some point, you have to be able to sort of will your own legs to walk through that stuff, to be brave, because you spent your whole entire life fighting this battle from the outside in, right? Dukes up, fight, you're ready to fight. But when the battle comes from the inside out, you're like, I wasn't prepared for this. It's like, yeah, because I like to equate these to muscles, right? Strong muscle, strong muscle, strong muscle, atrophied muscle. When you go to finally put weight on this, it's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel weird. And I basically ask folks, as a first responder and military folk, you have to be strong to do. And of course, you know, the natural is like, yeah, you got to be strong. You got to be strong. It's like, okay, have you ever seen the world's strongest man competition where they lift like the cars and the boulders and stuff, right? And most people have. And they say, okay, well, biggest, strongest people in the world lifting these unbelievable weights for unbelievable amounts of time, right? When they finally put that weight down, does that mean that they're weak, or does it mean it was just time to put it down, right? And when you think about that, it's like, okay, remember when you first started to train to become a first responder or in any athletic you ever did? Do you remember how weak and inexperienced you were? And of course, we'll go, yeah, of course. Okay, today on your person, do you have any of the weights from those original workouts, like a dumbbell or something like that, hanging off of you today? The answer is obviously no. Why not? Because at the time you said, you know what, I'm going to put that weight down. I'm going to go home. I'm going to rest. I'll come back and try again tomorrow, right? Become a first responder, become a military and stuff. You get exposed to the heaviest weights in the world. And you're not allowed to put those weights down because that's what you signed up for. That doesn't make any sense. How can you sign up for something without a crystal ball, a time machine, the ability to read minds? We don't have those three things. And so when it comes time to lift that weight, you have to give yourself permission to find a spotter. That's all I got for you. That's the it's not easy. That's the so the four is greater than two thing, right? That's mathematically that's true, right? Okay, you get up to the cruising altitude of your life. You have been who you are for a long time, right? You have expectations. People have expectations of you showing up in a particular role. You have your own expectations of yourself showing up in a particular role. If you've been telling yourself your whole entire life that you're not allowed to feel that stuff, right? Then your role is the person that's not allowed to feel that stuff. And you're going to get around friends who are basically telling you, you know, hey, why don't you hang out with us anymore or whatever, right? Well, you're going to realize at some point that something needs to change. And you're like, oh, it's got to be in this really uncomfortable category that I don't like to be in. And it's like, right, you're right. You are going to have to take some steps. You are going to have to get some help and not be good at something, right? Like, right. And when you start to do that, there's the voices inside of you that are going to tell you, oh, you're doing something wrong or that you're broken or whatever. And that's simply not true, right? And even you might even have friends that'll start talking shit to you because they you know they think you're weak or whatever. And we've all had that moment where we see somebody going out on a psych or whatever, and what we think about them, and then until that's all well and good until you're on the other side, and then realizing, oh, there was actually maybe there was something behind what I thought, what I was shaming somebody else in, right? And so when you realize that that's the case, and yet you got to deal with your own stuff, and there's these impossible weights that you have to lift and process the stuff, you have to remember that you're doing it for yourself, not to anybody else. Just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean you're doing something wrong, right? It just feels that way because you have gone so long without exercising that muscle, right? And when you do, you're going to be really glad when all the four of those horses are running at the same time. Any questions?
Wow, Dom, that's powerful. And you're so right. I remember um, when I retired, that's when things fell apart for me. And I said, I thought about it and I said, must be because I have all this free time on my hands now. While I was working, I just kept pushing stuff, pushing stuff, pushing stuff. And then, of course, I had the very intimate relationship with Johnny Walker Red. And so that kind of numbed things for a while. But that's when stuff started to hit me. The nightmares, the drug dealers coming in my house and trying to kill me,
Sure.
and in this car, I would drive this blue car, small blue car, and I would park it. And then when I went to find it, I could never find that car again. I'd be walking up and down parking lots with a clicker, trying to see the headlights or hear the little beep going on,
Right.
and it's amazing, and it's sad that nothing prepares you for this job. They don't talk about this stuff in the academy.
Well, how can they? I mean, you can't take
Yeah,
somebody on a ride along and then go, it's like, okay, we're going to go to a ride along and you're going to see somebody without their head.
yeah,
It's like, really? Wow. Right? You might think it's even cool the first time you see stuff like that. But then after a while, you realize that that's a person and
yeah,
that you're a person.
yeah,
And then pretty soon when you get that free time you're talking about, you start ruminating on this stuff. And the reason we keep ourselves busy is because we don't want to think about that stuff anymore. Or
right.
we realize that we stacked that stuff in there way deep down in the container. We stacked it in there. It's like just because you compartmentalize it doesn't mean you weren't going to go back and have to settle that debt up at some point, right? And people are realizing that, especially when the ones that retire. Doesn't mean you're broken. It just means that that bill that you thought you'd never have to pay, the balloon payments,
Yeah,
it's at the end,
yeah, yes, indeed.
right? And if the muscles you need to be able to pay that payment aren't strong, you will find other coping mechanisms, and
Mhm.
sometimes those coping mechanisms don't work.
Right. Yeah. Especially when you think about my generation, because I went on the PD in '67, and there was nothing for us,
No, not at all.
you know.
Yeah.
And then when you think about it, I go into it wasn't until 1991 when I got to DEA headquarters that there was any kind of counseling being offered, and it was mandatory. So in other words, if
Mm. It was punishment.
yes, yes, so it was mandatory, and even that even with it being mandatory, there's still people that resisted it because you know, hey, it's not going to work if they don't have the right people in place that are going to be doing that counseling. That's another big issue, man.
Well, you say right people in place, right? I'm, like I said, I battle with imposter syndrome because who the hell am I, man? I'm nobody when
Hmm.
it comes to this. But I'm somebody who's been through that situation and I can explain it in very elementary terms. And the things did happen to me, and they were very, I'm a reformed caveman, if you want to call it that.
Right.
Um, but I realize that sometimes the the only person that they're going to talk to, there's a checklist right off the bat. You can have somebody come in who will participate, but they're not going to do the work,
Right.
right? Because they don't trust you, right?
Hmm.
In that situation, and if automatically have to say that yes, I did wear a uniform. Was it good enough? Did I wear it enough, right? Or did I experience enough? And it's like the only way I do that is through my ability to listen and pay attention, and that's and 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 I knew that, especially when I went through school. School was awful. School was awful because I was the bad guy and I couldn't figure out why. Right, and it's because I was going from one end of the emotional spectrum all the way to the other end to have to get my schooling, and then found out that being a number of different, well, being in a liberal profession is already right off the bat something to be a challenge. But I also represent first responders, which was at the time, especially it was around the whole uh, George Floyd stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't just automatically was a bad guy. They chose to look in that lens through me, and so my time through school was really rough. But coming out on the other side, what I realized was that first responders and military folks needed a person like me to be able to say that I have done this and here's why, and then be able to sort of bridge that gap, because you might have this razor thin thinnest of windows to be able to grab some of these folks, especially if they got a bad taste in their mouth with previous experiences
Mm-hmm.
and a lifetime of it being drilled down into their head that it's shame filled anyway.
Right.
And so the window of opportunity, it's like trying to land one of the old Apollo missions, right? They
Hmm.
had to they had to hit that perfect window, It's like, because you may not get another one. And so when I tell all these first responders this stuff, I say, hey, look, just to let you know, you might have this little rebound effect,
Hmm.
right? And that what that means is if like a week tomorrow or a week from now or a month now or whatever, you find that you're more anxious, angry, or depressed based on, because when they hear this stuff, they're like, you know what, I actually never thought about it like that before. Well, what'll happen is they start getting angry, anxious, depressed. That's the stuff in the container getting pushed towards the door, and these three going, oh no, you what? You're going to change this now? You're going to deal with this now? Oh man, you must really be broken, right? They'll have that rebound effect, and then they'll ghost me and they won't come back or whatever. And it's like, I tell you that in advance to let you know that that feeling is normal. That means you're doing it
Hmm.
right, and that you're actually, that part of that uncomfortability is to be expected, right? Because it's what's feeling it is this doe-eyed baby,
Hmm.
right? What's driving it are these three bullies.
Right. Sarah.
Anything else? Any other questions? Yes, you in the back.
Thank you, Don. It was much more clear to me now hearing you describe this is your brain. I really love the analogy. I always liked it. I always felt like you're really talking to those who protect us. Um, it's really too bad that psychology is it's more of a liberal slant. Um,
I'm in the Bay Area, so I'm not. I'm also in the most liberal state of the most liberal profession, and I am truly the outsider, right? And
yes.
so when I got into school, I had some bad experiences that really shaped, but it also had me double down on my need to help first responders because I realized that there wasn't a lot of people out there like me that were going to be doing what I do.
Very, very, very good. I have also experienced that, not as a first responder, but as a recipient of the education in psychology and I ended up going to Liberty and just I feel like I need
I
to say
should have gone to
that.
Liberty.
I am telling you, it was so wise. It was so fair. It was such a human, full, whole picture. Like how do, and my emphasis was on first responders and veterans. And so I did not feel like there was a bias, a political bias or anything like that. It was really seeing people as a human being. And so
Good.
there is a lot more that I could share. I love the guerrilla therapy. I love the angle that you take, kind of like a man's man. I am a first responder. This is how we think. This is how we can get to it very quickly. Um, but I'm just sorry that you had that experience. That was the first thing when you stopped your, sharing. I'm just sorry that you had that experience. I'm sorry that those who protect us, who have to be in this very difficult arena, have to go through this when they need support.
Mm.
So I'm really very happy to know that you are doing this. I think especially in the San Francisco area, you're right there with um, I mean, I know I
Yes.
live in
I'm right
California.
there with all of this. Yes,
Yes, I get it.
I,
I get it, brother.
I understand. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you, Don. Thank you for
I
using
appreciate that.
everything you've gone through, reframed it like Rich was talking about, and really being part of the solution for our protectors that are suffering. Thank you.
Of course. I'm glad I could help. Hopefully it does at some point. The other thing too is I notice I find myself to be a pretty good referee when it comes to the actual marriage and family
Mm.
stuff because the first responder couples, boy, I could tell you volumes of stories, and that tutorial I just gave you so applies to a lot of the stuff that goes on and with the troubles that I see in these marriages. And so it helps them understand they got to grab the steering wheel in front of them rather than somebody else's, right? And so when you're angry, like I said, it's like everything seems like an attack. And you don't, and it's not like there's an alarm that goes off that says your significant other is about to insult your manhood in three, two, like you can get your dukes up ready to fight, right? It's on before you even know it, right? And that's the thing, is that's why it's so important to recognize. That's the cool thing. You get to take this memory device home with you, right? So you're welcome, by the way. So you guys can get to, you can look at this anytime you want. Uh, with the idea of sort of understanding that you have one of these, and that
Hmm.
when this thing is on, is not the one brain you want representing you. This is not the one you want buying that new car or going to gamble in Vegas or whatever. It's the, or this is not the one you want representing you when you're having a conversation with your significant other about why they don't get it. It's like, no, they get it. They just don't like your answer.
Yes.
Right. That's the same thing I told my kids, and I learned that one a long time ago. So
Yeah. Wow. You know, I spent from 87 to 91. I was stationed in the Bay Area.
oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
And uh, I remember the
I'm kidding,
91.
Bay Area people. I really this is actually a pretty cool place.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, the uh, the wars just started. I was the Gulf War, I think it was.
Okay,
Yeah.
in the '90s,
Yeah.
'92, something like
Right.
that.
So 91, I forget where I was. I took a walk, and all of a sudden I see all this commotion, and it was President Bush, first Bush, declaring war. And man, the city went on fire. And they had we had demonstrations at the federal building. They uh, burned the flag. One night, the and the demonstrations went on for a few days. One night, Federal Protective Police called up to our office. It was me and two other supervisors still in the building, and he says, "Hey, can you guys come and help us?" He said they're trying to break through the door and all this other stuff. So we called the FBI. They said they can't get involved. They can't get involved in that sort of thing. So I said, we'll be right down. So we got downstairs, and I looked over on the side of the wall, and I said, "Do you have a key to that fire hose?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "Open it up for me." And then, yeah.
Thanks. I needed that one. I like where this story is going.
And so, yeah, we took care of business. And then threatened, they, they threatened us. They said that, of course, out there, you can't, you have to have a permit. So they got their permit, and they couldn't start before 6 a.m. So in order to, they said that any federal employee coming into the building, they were either going to throw AIDS infected blood at them.
Oh,
Uh,
geez, no pressure.
the fountains that we had outside were all red. We didn't know whether it's dye or blood, whatever, because it was just crazy. So they called the Marshall SOG unit in. So they came in a banana truck, right? Like they were making deliveries for the cafeteria. So they got into the building. We went down and met them, and I'll tell you, Dom, some of these guys that got out of there, they looked like gorillas, man. So, and, and they went outside, and all I did was take some pictures and watch.
Yeah, right. You made a very good witness. I can already tell.
Oh man, I'm telling you, that crowd went like the sea was parted.
Yes, I've been in a few situations like that. Yes.
Yeah. And then after I retired, I went to see a therapist because I knew I needed to see I knew I needed help, right? And so
How did you know that? What was the internal marker?
the uh, the nightmares, you know, I mean, they were vivid. I mean, I one night I thought I was kicking a person away from my bed. I kicked the dresser. and hurt my ankle. You know, I fell out of bed and I said, "Oh, what the hell?" And and it was just other things, the drinking. And then I said to myself, you know what? This drinking is not working. I could always go down to
You still
DC,
have the nightmares?
not like I used to. Uh, they were rough. They were some.
Let me give you a little insight on those nightmares. If you think about your subconscious brain being this big, huge warehouse
Mhm.
in which, and with this little tiny door, in which you basically just just stack stuff in there. Well, it's a warehouse filled with emotions that we had to compartmentalize or didn't allow ourselves to feel, right? So if you think about fear, when you're at the height of your career, you can't allow fear to come in.
Right.
But I hate to break it to you, it comes in anyway,
Yeah.
right? And so what our brain will do is our brain will say, okay, hey, we're going to sleep deep enough to actually get a dream in. We got a lot of fear in this container right here. What do you have in the way of imagery to basically make us feel fear so that we can process what we want to do with it, right? And that's why we have nightmares. But no, more normally we'll use the actual images of the thing that caused fear, right? Because that's
Hmm.
what that's when you're getting traumatized. You don't have to go looking for something else. You see the images, it comes in choppy and stuff like that. But what your brain's trying to do is it's trying to reconcile this fact that you had this structure that says, never going to be afraid. I'm always going to have a chance at fighting for myself and blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. Then all of a sudden something comes in and breaks the structure because you feel fear for the first time
Mm.
or for like in a time where you told yourself you never would,
Right.
right? Or you feel like you're going to die or whatever. And a lot of I got to talk to a lot of people that said I thought I was going to die. It's like, yeah, that structure you thought was going to be here forever just broke. Yeah,
Hmm.
and it doesn't mean you can't go back. You can fix it. You just can't have the old structure. You now live in a world where an event that happened to you, whereby you felt fear, and it landed, right? And that all that means is that you are like every other person on this grain of sand that's hurtling through space. Is you're a human being, right?
Hmm.
I don't give a crap who you are. I don't give a crap how you identify because this applies to human beings.
Right.
And so once you realize that you're that this all this stuff here, all this, it ties to your humanity, not to your identity.
Mm.
Then you start to go, oh, that means that I'm responding like that person. That means that even though I volunteered to put myself in harm's way and stand the line right between good and evil, it doesn't mean that I'm impervious to it. It just means that I chose to do that, not knowing what was ultimately going to happen to me at the end because I didn't have a crystal ball. I'm
Mm.
still a human being, and what that means is that when these, because some of these first responders are like going through these horrible internal dynamics to try to deal with all the crap that they've seen, right? And once they realize that they're just a normal human being reacting normally to the cavalcade of shit that they've seen, they're just then it's like, oh, okay, that means I can give myself grace, right? Because that's really all you're going to do is the thing that's going to start it is just being able to feel grace and have grace towards yourself and realize that the thing that you're standing up for is yourself. It's not admitting that you're broken. In fact, that really pisses me off when somebody says that it's weakness. It's not weakness. The utmost strength comes in somebody basically allowing that doe-eyed baby walking on stilts to actually get out of there and find help. That's the ultimate strength. Didn't feel that way at the time. I can assure you of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And and you have to have the foundation for the organization. That's where we're failing, I believe. The organizations, the
There's a lot
hierarchy.
of organizational betrayal
Yes.
in there that there's and made worse by you know like one foot on the dock, one foot in the boat when it comes to their own mental health. It's like I don't want to totally do it, and then the organization betrays me because they think because they have the old school mentality, and then it just drives me back into that gate and says, well, then I guess I'm not going to be helped.
Hmm.
Right? And that's a shame. That's why I say the window to be able to help somebody who really needs help is small because the
Yeah.
one that really needs help is the one that's going to tell you he's fine to your face.
Yeah. Yeah. I took a few QPR courses and uh,
QPR, what is that?
uh, question uh,
You
reassure.
realize there was going to be a test today, did you,
Yeah,
Rich?
I know. I always do
Persuade?
this. The
Yeah.
question,
Persuade?
persuade. Yeah, QPR, persuade and refer.
Okay.
There's suicide courses, and they're pretty.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, and and a lot of the stuff that you're talking about right now is stuff that they talk about, like that window. It's very small window, and they'll run you through different scenarios, like if a person said this, what do you think they're at on the scale? You know, uh, it. I learned.
People don't want to be quantified; they want to be heard. And
Yes,
then trying to convince somebody else that they've been heard
yes,
is very
right,
it takes the person listening to get over themselves.
right, and and I think I posted something on Facebook a couple weeks ago, and I also on LinkedIn. But what I talked about was we often tell people, if you're struggling, reach out, right? Well, obviously that reach out is not working because we're still seeing a high number of suicides in our military and law enforcement community.
You can throw it, but it's not being caught. That's the
Right,
thing, right?
right. So I said we should be making safe places for people where they can come and talk. You don't see much of that, a
Well,
safe
it's
place.
if so. Imagine, Rich. I'm gonna give you a time machine for the time being to be able to, and I'm gonna take you back to the height of who you were in your identity as a law enforcement professional. Okay, and I'm gonna make that safe place. In fact, I'm gonna put it right in the center of town, and I'm gonna put a big sign above the top of it that says "Safe Place." Would you go to that place?
No,
You wouldn't go anywhere near it. And it's not because it wasn't a safe place. It wasn't because of the building. It was because of the mindset that you were in,
yep,
right?
yep,
And so when you think about what it is you're trying to say, you're not trying to come up with that perfect thing. You're trying to come up with the perfect thing for them,
yeah,
for that person, the guy that's nibbling on the barrel. So
hmm,
you're trying to basically go, I see you. I know what's happening. I can relate, right? And be able, and that's not something that's going to go on a billboard above a building.
no, no. Oh, wow.
Yes. You in the front row.
I moved up. So I am curious, do you have any strategies that you want to share, like when you're talking to this law enforcement officer and you are bringing awareness that you want to grow the muscle of this one
Yes.
here, the emotions.
Sure.
How
Right.
do you put this guy back?
Well, so that's the key, right? And so I try to I want you to come up with something that is catchy and funny and makes you remember this. That's the reason I want you to remember this is right. It's kind of the quirky things like you've seen people fight with their hands out like this, but you never see this is the worst. If you fight like this, you're going to lose,
Hmm.
right? And so you tying that to this, tying that to Fonzie. Remember Fonzie?
Okay.
Hey,
Yeah.
right? Just remembering like, oh yes, what you're trying to remember is you're doing a temperature check regularly to find out, is this on right now? Well, let me find out. If I don't completely know whether this is on, let me do a couple of things. First of all, if you imagine there's a square here, right? Each side of the square is obviously the same size, 4 seconds long each side. Then it's a version of tactical breathing, right? That's why it's got to be tactical. You've got to like here, do this tactical thing. But each side of this is 4 seconds. 4 second inhale, and I'm talking about a four like you're spacing it out, to really expand your lungs, and then you're going to hold it. You're going to hold it for 4 seconds empty. I mean, 4 seconds full. And then when you exhale, it's going to be like you're trying to blow out a row of 6 candles. You want the air to go all the way out of your lungs over that 4 seconds, right? Because when you get to this bottom corner where you have finished pushing out air, like if you were making a noise, you'd stop making that noise. Then you're going to hold it for 4 seconds with an empty lung. And that what that does is it kind of creates this little mini, like if you're freaking out, your brain's trying to say, breathe faster, right? It's like, and so you're slowing down you're slowing down your respiration rate to match the person whose heart rate you want, right? And so when you create that little mini oxygen deficit, your brain kind of goes, hey, when are we going to breathe again? And then when that next big deep breath comes in, it's glorious. It's awesome, right? So it's and so it's like you're using this mechanism to really really expand all the way out, push it all the way up, expand all the way up. And what you're doing is you're trying to go slow so that the heart rate that's going boom 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 because this is on starts going boom 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 as you start to slow it down a little bit. The other thing I have people do is I do that. It's a kind of a grounding technique. But if you take your hands like this and you put it down on a flat surface like you're playing a piano, all 10 fingers on the ground, try this out for me so you can make my point for me, okay? Put your fingers down on the table flat like you're going to touch all 10 fingers. Now pick up your pinky finger and your middle finger on both hands. Okay, you did it. Great. Okay, now put down the middle finger and the pinky finger and lift the index finger and the ring finger on both hands. Did you notice you had to look at your hands in order to do that? Do you want to know where your brain can't be? Can't be in the future. Can't be in the past. Can't be in somebody else's head. No crystal ball. No mind reading. No time machine. You are actively saying you're doing the first thing you did when you came onto the planet, and that's breathe. And then you're bringing your brain back into the room because if this is on, it is not in the room. It is in all the other things that are happening outside of you, right? And so you're doing the grounding and the breathing to bring yourself back into today because this is the smart part of your brain. This is the one you want making decisions for you. The other thing I add on to that, remember I said physical, intellectual, social, emotional. If the thing I would have somebody do is after you do the breathing and the grounding and stuff like that, drop into a push-up position and do as many push-ups as you can for one set. Do it till you cannot lift yourself off the floor anymore. And what you're doing is you're basically activating this to turn this off, right? But to the point where you have to strain so much that your brain disconnects from the thing you're thinking about to say, wow, I'm really tired, or you know what I mean? To kind of like you're reaching over, it's pushing off the dock to the boat and committing to getting in the boat, right? Or a cold plunge. I have a cold plunge. I think it's a great thing because I can guarantee you pick up 100% of your problems, you go and you try to sit in a cold plunge, you're going to put those problems down for at least 2, 3, 4, or 5 minutes because you're going to be like, wow, this is the coldest shit I've ever been in my life. And when you get done, the 100% of your problems are still there. Right. If you want to pick them back up, then you go, maybe I'll only pick up 90%. It's like, great, 10%'s gone. You know what I mean? You're basically switching it over just long enough to go, oh, I can do that? Oh, okay, then I'm going to try to utilize that technique to go, oh, I can tell this is on, or if I can't tell it's on, I do my breathing just to check and see. And if you feel better, it's like, well, we were sneaking towards this, and you're just doing a temperature check at any given moment to find out which one of your brains is representing you.
And that could be on and you not even realize it.
Well, a lot of the times, a lot of people I deal with, they're like, why am I having anxiety attacks? Why am I doing this? Why are all these terrible things happening? It's like, because this has been on for too long. This is not meant to stay on. It's meant to be turned off. And when this stays on for 24/7, there's no next level down to access,
Mm.
like some extra protective factor. No, that's it. That's why you're freaking out, because the part of you that needs to be afraid is afraid now, because you're like, shit, that defense mechanism that I had is gone because it was already on. It's been on for 2 years, right? And sometimes people don't even know that this thing's been on for it stays on for such a long time that they start to think that's just who they are. It's not. Especially
And
when all our family members are telling you, "Hey, Dad, why are you more angry? Hey,
yeah,
why are
yeah,
you drinking more? Why are you?" It's like,
yeah,
because you're trying to turn this off with it's like trying to turn off a fire with gasoline. Don't be surprised, right?
yeah. Wow. And I guess that's a good point. Uh, you have to know yourself to know whether that's on. You really have to know yourself, right?
Well, you got it more than anything else is the grace. So I gotta rely on that one, because a lot of people don't know, and that's the thing. Is like, just because you don't know doesn't mean you're gonna supposed to automatically be good at it. It just
Hmm.
means you're giving yourself grace to say, well, maybe I will check. And it's like, and if it's on, it's like, okay, well, I can see that. Instead of going, way to go, dummy,
Mm.
right? Because you got enough riding on your back without giving yourself a piggyback ride.
Right. Oof.
I like what you
You
said
there?
too. Oh, go ahead, Rich. I'm sorry.
Oh
No,
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 no.
it's you. No, it's
Oh,
your turn.
okay. Yeah, I love that part about the self-compassion because like you said, you are human. And I love the analogy of like the flame glasses,
Mm.
like really being able to be self-aware to realize, oh, I'm wearing flame glasses. And it's all these things that you don't know what you don't know. I mean,
All
you
right.
sign on that line or you become a protector to serve and protect, and you're not trained in these areas to become self-aware of what is happening with I always think like this is way too much for a human being. This is way too much for a human being. And there's too many perfect storms out there to not help the first responder heal and ground. Love the exercises that you gave. And I love the analogy too, like um how come it's not taught clearly that a weightlifter puts down his weights. Like,
Hmm.
why would not the hidden pressures not be taught to put down that weight? And then if
Agree.
you have the agencies that are just not understanding how to support these human beings that are serving and protecting, or even worse, if you have an education that is really not um, culturally competent,
Right.
those who serve, like that's, I think, it's just that's why I love that you're doing this because there's just too many things that can go wrong around the first responder. And, so
Well, the other part too is I agree with you 100%. And the thing, when those things go wrong, it's usually when the first responders in this mindset, which is, of course, is going to be interpreted as the worst things, right? Which is going to send them packing in the other direction as quickly as possible. And that's, like you said, a perfect storm. All those things happen at once. That person's not going to reach out, right? But the way I look at it is, even the strongest people need a spotter when they're going for their world record weights.
Hmm.
And when you have seen that terrible thing, it's like you're going to need help picking that up or finding a place to put that or whatever, right? But if you look at it like a workout, because first responders and military folks, they'll let themselves work out, and
Hmm.
so and that's why I say you're walking into a trap when I tell you this thing, because when you hear it, you're like, oh crap, I do work out. That analogy makes sense to me. How dare he get past my defenses? It's like, gotcha.
for a good reason.
That's right. That's right. Well, that's the mission, right? Because whose life are you actually trying to save?
Yeah,
Your own.
yeah. Another thing, Don, is the things like that always stay with you. I don't care what you do. The smells, decomposition, fresh blood, stale blood,
Yep.
all that stuff. uh, gunpowder, all those things. They'll always be with you. I mean,
It's all the senses, though. Remember when I told you when I said when this thing? So I have first responders do their ABCs,
hmm
right? And the ABCs, and this is like an exercise to kind of like do a little sort of trauma inventory and just find out where stuff like where you got some stuff.
hmm
Column if you sat down on a piece of paper and you wrote down column A, column B, column C. Column A is the event. That's the title of the event, the kid drowning, right?
right.
Column B is the oh shit moment, and that is the logo of the event, right? And like you said, it could be one of the senses. It could be the sights. It could be that last thing you saw before this thing turned on,
hmm
or it could be like you said, the smell. I knew someone that couldn't see blood. They couldn't like in their memories of everything that they saw, the blood was not red. It was just gray,
mm
right? And so it's the logo for that event. And then column C, and this is the stuff that we um, uh, this bracelet I have here, I got a bunch of words on the inside that is about the whole crystal ball, time machine, mind reading stuff. And one of the phrases in there is I don't know. And the thing is, when you go through this exercise to do your ABCs, you're going to say a lot of times I don't know. But for people who don't have good access to their emotions, I don't know is a reason to quit. Is to
hmm
basically go, I don't know, and I'm not trying anymore. I get that a lot. And so I tell folks, when you think of the I don't know, that's the place that you're going to start, not the place that you're going to end. And so when you're filling out this big, huge uh, list of all the things that you've been through and you've done your event and your oh shit moment, and the oh shit moment is like that moment where you take the snap, where it takes the snapshot, right? I'll give you an example. CHP guy pulls somebody over for a traffic stop, goes, gets their information, comes back to his car. He's sitting in his car. His door is open, and he's got his foot outside the door, and he's writing a ticket. All of a sudden, he hears something, looks up in his rearview mirror, realizes that somebody doing about 90 miles an hour is about to obliterate him, and it does. It just comes in and just completely sends him out, takes him out for a year, right? Well, when he came back, he had a hard time like re-engaging, and it's like, okay, why is that? It's like, well, for that ABC, the oh shit moment was the moment that he looked up in his rearview mirror and realized that he wasn't going to be able to protect himself.
hmm
Like that thing that he thought he'd always be able to do, he wasn't going to be able to do, and that scared him, right? And it's so, and that's so that thing. So this thing, he goes riding a traffic stop. Oh shit! Something comes in and harpoons in there, and it says he wasn't fast enough, or I wasn't good enough, or whatever. And now that value is stuck in there,
hmm
right? It's like a fish hook, right? And it makes you have a heart. That's why this thing can't come back. That's why this thing can't turn off, because it still thinks, well, I've got to stay. That's why it keeps this thing on, because it thinks it wasn't fast enough, so I got to stay on all the time, or this thing happened, right? And so I got to be better, and all this kind of stuff. And then come to find out, it's just because you've got the emotions about these things that happen to you that you're not prepared to deal with. And so rather than go, ooh, I don't know what to do with these emotions, I can't admit I have them. So what I'll do is I'll just take responsibility for something that I'm not responsible for. Right. We'll just go, yeah, I'm just going to let that be the case. It's like, yeah, it wasn't your fault. But because of the system you had in place, you just told yourself that, well, it's my fault because that fear. Otherwise, I can't admit I had fear.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you did have fear, and the thing that you're going to have to restructure when the rebuild is a person that has grace and that allows you to have fear because you're a normal human being. Right? It doesn't mean that fear has to completely sack you. It just means that you have to say, oh, I'm a human being and that thing happened to me. Yeah, that's what would happen to anybody. What would normally happen to somebody that was exposed to that terrible thing that you just, like, okay, that makes sense. And the only way that's going to land, the only way that message is going to land is with grace.
hmm and that's very important. I think that's what most of us don't realize or don't think about
Well,
is
they don't
that.
think about it because you don't think about it from here,
hmm
right? Well, let me add end the ABC thing. So A is the event, B is the oh shit moment, C is the value statement or unanswerable question. Why would God do this? Right?
hmm
Or the value statement in that particular scenario is I wasn't fast enough,
hmm
or I'm not good enough, or something like that, right? Each one of these events has the event, the logo for the event, which is that when you think of this event, what's the first thing that pops in your head? Well, the smell of blood. It's like, okay, smell of blood. And then the value statement or unanswerable question. It's like this was an unnecessary tragedy,
Hmm.
right? And then it's like hangs on you. And it's so each one of those things that you've been through is just like soup, 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 darts just going in there. And then you wonder why you can't turn this thing back on to bring the mainframe back online. It's like because of all the things that are sticking out of here that you refuse to acknowledge.
Wow. Amazing.
You ever seen anybody go into a gym and lift all the weight in the first exercise?
No.
Well, you're not going to either. So one day at a time. That's the idea. Is have you ever seen anybody jump to the top of Mount Everest?
No.
Small steps and a guide. You just
Hmm.
have to give yourself permission to find the guide.
Hmm. And be willing to
Be vulnerable. That's I
yeah,
hate to use that word
yeah,
because it's so cliche, and I know how it just really like rings in the ears, and it's like, but you have to be vulnerable, and that's so tough
yeah.
when you built a life on
Hmm.
saying that thing you're telling me that I need to do. I know, and I'm looking into the future to see this that I'm going to feel shame and guilt. And you're like, yep, you are. But the reason you're going to be able to still do that and get out on the other side is because of grace.
Hmm. Wow. When I was doing uh, training for DEA uh, back in the early 80s, Dallas Police Department, I'll never forget, they had a program in place where they would bring the wives or significant others in one night to the academy. And they'd show a slide presentation. Uh, your husband or your wife may come home from work one night and they don't want to talk or whatever, and it may be because of this, and they'll show a tragic accident scene or whatever. And I thought that was very progressive, because they were what I at the time I said, well, they're conditioning them to what uh, their husbands might experience or the significant other may experience. But then years later, I thought that, and I couldn't put my finger on it, but I know you will be able to. Uh, that could be that could have the intent was right, but
Right.
it could have a negative connotation to it too.
There's a thing called vicarious trauma, right? It's like you want people to understand that they're going through, but you're not going to tell your young kids that you just saw somebody get their head chopped off. It's like you're right. It's like you just be traumatizing them and them making them afraid at every time you go out the door,
Right.
right? And so in order to sort of, and this is why I kind of help build up the family dynamic and the couple dynamic to let them know it's like, hey, you've been through something
Hmm.
that you come in through the door and you're like, I had a day today, right? It's not you're trying to create a lighthouse, the thing that never changes,
Hmm.
right? I love you, I support you, I'm always going to be here for you. And then when you come into the door, it's like I had this thing happen to me, but I want to make sure that you understand I love you, I support you, and that sometimes maybe I feel a particular way. It's not carte blanche excuse for the way people act, but it's just sort of
Right.
like a hey, I'm just giving you a heads up that I had this emotional thing happen to me, but that emotional thing isn't because of me coming home and automatically being angry at right. But that's how it lands sometimes.
Right.
People come home and they snap off on their kids or whatever. It's
Hmm.
like, but they just saw three kids get killed in a car accident. That's
Right.
like, or they saw somebody that looked like one of their kids drown in a pool. Now and it's like I'm not angry at you. I'm afraid for what I saw, and then I opened that up and saw you, and that made me even more angry, and I can't do anything about it. So
Right. Oof.
It's so huge too to be able to relieve the kids with not taking it personally. Like just something like that, just explaining something like that to kids
sure,
is so huge.
it is huge, and the other part is huge is understanding that they have more of this than they do of this,
Mm.
right? Because your kids, they're sometimes how did your babies when they first come out let you know that they were They cried, right? And so when you think about an emotion coming out, you have to think about it like this. Two people are walking towards you on the sidewalk. You look off in the distance and you see one of the people is acting like a total ass, right? They're yelling obscenities, they're pushing people, they're knocking stuff off shelves. Then all of a sudden they come up to you and they push you down. And after you get up and dust yourself off, you put your dukes up and you're like, oh, it's on now, right? And then the other person runs up and puts their hands up there and says, hold on a second, hold on a second. That person is special needs. Your
Mm,
attitude completely changes because you realize that the thing that was happening right there was as a result of what was going on with them, not what was going on with you,
right.
right? And so your ability to basically go, ooh, I have one of these. Ooh, okay, well then I need to go over here because that usual dynamic of me butting heads isn't working. But if you recognize your kids only have one of these, then what you're realizing is that you're going to become a better listener than you are just do what I told you, because it doesn't work that way,
Right.
right? It didn't work with mine. And at least one particular kid who's she got a concrete nugget on her head, but she turned it into something good. I'm super proud of her. Proud of them both,
That's good. That's good. Wow.
right? But again, how it's thrown, how it's caught,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. I remember a therapist telling me one day, um, after me and my wife split up, my daughters stayed with me, my three daughters. And so we, summer vacation was coming up. And so every Friday night we would have a little family meeting. And so I knew what was going to come up. It was going to be, Dad, what's our curfew for summer vacation? Right. So the therapist said to me, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm going to probably tell them midnight or whatever, something like. She said, no, don't. Ask them what they think is fair. So I said, okay. So question came up. Say, Dad, what's our curfew for the summer vacation? I I said, I don't know. What do you guys think is fair? Is 11 o'clock too late? And I'm saying to myself, shoot, I was giving up an hour, man. I was.
Right. Would you pull the poker face where you went, oh, I don't know? Yeah, I'm on to you, Rich.
Oh, Tom, this has really been a great session. I'm glad you could be with us.
I could be here.
I hope to be able to uh, catch up to you at some point in time. You know,
If for any reason somebody needs to talk to me, then by all means send them my way. Because when I think about the people that I talked about in that situation, if they if they get down into that dark hole, then I definitely want to talk to them because I can help them. I think I
yeah.
can.
I was telling Sarah last week. My first partner in DEA took his own life. He's a captain in the Marine Corps. Did two tours in Vietnam, and he was with the 1-9, the Walking Dead, and they had the highest casualty rate in Vietnam.
Right.
So he took his life because his wife, they were getting ready to go through a divorce, and she was going to get 70% of his pension. So he said to the lawyer, "Well, how am I going to live?" And he shot himself in the heart. I believe because he wanted to have an open casket for his kids. You know,
Hmm.
so it was very
He
little
did do
blood,
that for his kids.
very little blood, and I mean, this guy he was strong, and he knew his anatomy too. So,
Right.
but then to come to find out, just 2 weeks ago, I'm talking to an agent that I mentored back, and he's been off the job 13 years, and he said to me, "Hey, Rich, you remember when you talked about your first?" He was listening to a podcast that I did, uh, reasons we serve, and he said, "Do you realize that after you left, three more agents in the same division, Newark, New Jersey, took their lives?" So Newark, New Jersey, the DEA division, division has the distinction of having four agents take their own lives in a 4 year period.
It's
And
awful.
they were all family connected.
It doesn't have to be that way. That's the thing I want anybody that's hearing the sound of my voice to understand. I know how bad it gets. I know how dark it gets. I know I've seen the lights dim, and I'm here to tell you that is not, that is, I've heard this before, and I didn't come up with it. It's a permanent solution to a temporary problem,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right? And it's, and like, and I'm stressed that because the person that's hearing that goes, no, it feels like it's going to last forever, right? It's always going to be this way and all this kind of stuff. And I'm here to tell you, you're looking through a pair of glasses with flames painted on the lenses. That's
Yeah.
why it looks like that.
Hmm.
Rich, do you even recognize, like, do you even feel your glasses on your face?
No.
You'd know if they weren't there, though, right?
Yes.
Right? Because you couldn't see for shit, right? And
Exactly.
so that, but that's the thing is like but everybody's experience is a pair of glasses we forgot we were wearing.
That's a good analogy. Great analogy. Yeah. Wow. Well done. Wow. I really appreciate it, man.
I'm glad I could be here. Hopefully it helps.
I just wish we could have had more people on, but you know,
Well, we'll post this out there somewhere. We'll get some
oh,
viewership on it. See what
oh yeah,
happens.
definitely, definitely, definitely.